What does it feel like to be trapped deep underground, dangling helplessly in the darkness, with every second feeling like a battle for survival? Well, in the heart of Hellhole Cave, one caver faced that terrifying reality. What started as an exciting descent into the unknown quickly turned into a fight for his life. Alone on the rope, he suddenly found himself trapped upside down, tangled in his own gear, unable to move. His strength was fading fast. How did he survive? What did it take to bring him back to the surface? Join us on this harrowing journey into the depths where every decision meant the difference between life and death. Hidden beneath the rugged beauty of Germany Valley in eastern West Virginia lies Hellhole Cave, a vast and intriguing underground wonder. Known for its immense depth and unique ecological importance, Hellhole Cave is the 7th longest cave in the United States and the deepest in West Virginia, plunging to an astonishing 737 feet. This remarkable cave system has fascinated explorers for decades, not only because of its challenging terrain, but also because of the critical role it plays in the survival of endangered bat species. The entrance to Hellhole Cave is both dramatic and mysterious. A funnel-shaped pit located on the lower slopes of North Fork Mountain provides the only known access. Cavers must ascend 154 feet by rope through this vertical shaft to reach the vast chambers below. From the 1940s onward, explorers have mapped over 42 miles of twisting passageways, making it one of the most extensive cave systems in the region. The cave's deep, dark corridors are carved primarily from New Market limestone, known for its commercial value. However, this limestone also plays a critical role in the cave's formation, giving Hellhole its distinct geological character. One of the cave's most fascinating features is its connection to the National Speleological Society. Hellhole Cave has been a training ground for some of the most basic and advanced caving techniques, known as the single rope technique. The 154-foot entrance drop is one of the reasons cavers from all over the country have been drawn to it, eager to test their skills in its challenging environment. Over the years, significant discoveries have been made, including the so-called Little Hellhole, a famous pit located deeper within the cave, and the discovery of new chambers like Kraus Hall in 1995. Hellhole is more than just a natural wonder. It is a vital habitat for endangered bats. The cave serves as a hibernaculum, or wintering site, for 2 federally protected species, the Virginia big-eared bat and the Indiana bat. Approximately 45% of the world's Virginia big-eared bats hibernate here, along with large populations of Indiana bats and little brown bats. In total, Hellhole provides a winter refuge for over 100,000 bats, thanks to its unique environment. The cave maintains a low temperature of around 47 degrees Fahrenheit, much colder than most other caves in the region, making it an ideal location for bat hibernation. This cool climate is a result of cold air being trapped within the cave's vast chambers, a delicate balance that could easily be disrupted by nearby mining activities. Now, despite its natural beauty and importance, access to Hellhole Cave has been restricted for many years. In the late 1980s, Greer Industries, a local limestone mining company, acquired a lease on the land surrounding the cave entrance. Since then, only limited exploration and biannual surveys for bat populations have been allowed, in coordination with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, also known as the USFWS. Conservation efforts intensified in the early 2000s when the Germany Valley Karst Survey, or GVKS, was contracted to map the cave's extent. Their work added more than 12 miles, or 19 kilometers of passage, demonstrating the vast size of this underground world. By 2015, the known length of Hellhole Cave had expanded to 42 miles, or 68 kilometers, cementing its place as one of the most impressive cave systems in the United States. Hellhole Cave is a delicate balance of exploration and conservation. Cavers continue to advocate for its protection, recognizing that its unique cold air system is vital for the survival of its bat population. Even as mining operations threaten its integrity, ongoing efforts by scientists, caving organizations, and environmental agencies aim to preserve this natural wonder for future generations. Hellhole Cave is far more than just a deep pit in the earth. It is a living ecosystem, a training ground for explorers, and a testament to the fragile beauty of the underground world. In the quiet hills of Pendleton County, West Virginia, Hellhole Cave waited in eerie silence, its vast limestone passages hiding secrets known only to a few daring explorers. On the evening of Wednesday, June 29, 1983, 4 adventurous cavers stood at the edge of the cave's infamous sinkhole, ready to take on the challenge. Among them was Rudy Prusco, an experienced caver who would soon find himself in a situation that none of them could have predicted. A harrowing ordeal that would test both his endurance and the teamwork of those around him. Hellhole Cave had long held a reputation as one of the deepest and most mysterious caves in West Virginia. Its enormous chambers and intricate passages attracted thrill seekers eager to push the limits of their endurance. For Prusco and his companions, the cave was a place of fascination and danger, a perfect destination for the unforgettable expedition. As they prepared for their descent, excitement spread through the group. They double-checked their equipment, harnesses, helmets, carabiners, and the all-important rope. The main rope, 200 feet long, seemed sufficient for the descent into the sinkhole, though none could be entirely sure if it would reach the bottom. Prusco was ready to lead the charge. He packed his gear meticulously, a sturdy 6-volt hand lantern to light the way, a camera to capture the wonders of the cave, and a well-stocked pack. Altogether, the gear weighed 20 to 30 pounds, a hefty load, but nothing that Prusco hadn't handled before. With everything ready, the group secured the rope to a sturdy tree at the top of the sinkhole, and they steeled themselves for the adventure. Prusco was the first to descend, ready for any challenge. He had rigged himself for ascent just in case something went wrong, a precaution that every experienced caver knows is vital. The entrance to Hellhole Cave yawned open before him like a giant mouth, dark and foreboding, but also thrilling. Each step down the rope sent a surge of excitement through him. The cold air from the cave brushed against his face, and the sound of his breathing echoed in the silent abyss below. The beam from his 6-volt hand lantern barely pierced the darkness, casting long shadows on the rough limestone walls. As he went down, the light showed the sharp edges of the cave, making them look like old teeth. After going down about 30 to 40 feet, Prusco reached a small flat area. He stopped there, holding the rope tightly with one hand and raising his lantern with the other. He leaned forward, looking into the big, dark space below him. The rope went down into the darkness, but he still couldn't see the end. He looked closely, hoping to see the bottom, but all he saw was more darkness. With the thrill of excitement, he decided to go further. Slowly and carefully, he descended another 20, then 30, and finally about 50 feet. His muscles were tired from carrying his heavy bag, which had a camera and other important things. He took a deep breath, enjoying the feeling of adventure, until he saw the end of the rope hanging just above the cave floor. His heart sank. The rope wasn't long enough. The excitement turned to concern as he craned his neck upward and shouted, "The rope's too short, it doesn't reach the bottom." His voice echoed eerily through the cave, bouncing off the walls and fading into the distance. Now the plan was simple. Climb back up. He had done this many times before. Prusco tugged on the rope to secure himself, and he prepared to ascend. But as he gripped the rope and he began to pull himself up, the real challenge began. One that he could never have anticipated. Prusco started the climb confidently, but something was wrong. The weight of his gear, combined with the horizontal ascent technique recommended by caving expert Bill Gossett, was pulling him backward. He could feel the pack, lantern, and camera dragging him down. Gravity worked against him. And before long, he found himself in a terrifying situation, hanging upside down in the darkness, tangled in his own equipment. "Help! I'm being pulled in!" Prusco shouted, scared and desperate. His arms got tired, and his head felt heavy and full of blood. He felt scared and trapped, the tight harness hurting his body and the cold air making him shiver. He tried to free himself from the ropes and straps, but it was hard to move. Minutes felt like hours. Prusco's breathing was short and heavy as he realized that he couldn't climb out by himself. He was stuck, hanging in the darkness of Hellhole Cave with no way out. Above the cave, the rest of the team got into action, their hearts racing as they realized the seriousness of the situation. Prusco was trapped, dangling in the darkness, and they knew that they had to act fast. One of the cavers ran towards the van, feet pounding the ground, knowing that every second counted. He grabbed a second rope 150 feet long and sprinted back, his breath coming in short gasps from fear and adrenaline. Meanwhile, another caver shouted for help, waving frantically to nearby campers. The group had luck on their side. They were near the National Speleological Society, or NSS, convention, where experienced cavers and rescue experts gathered. A call for reinforcements was made, and soon a few campers arrived, their faces tense with worry, but ready to help. Everyone knew that this was no ordinary challenge. Prusco's life was literally hanging in the balance, and there was no time to waste. Back at the cave's entrance, the second rope was quickly secured. Using mechanical devices called Jumars, which grip the rope and allow climbers to ascend safely, the team attached the new rope to the main line. The cavers above leaned back, gripping the rope tightly, and began pulling with all of their strength. Now, the first few pulls were slow and hard, the rope pulling under the weight of Prusco, his heavy gear, and the tension of the situation. Inch by inch, they pulled him up. They were making loud noises as they pulled, their muscles aching as they worked together. Sweat ran down their faces, and their muscles hurt as they fought against gravity. Every pull felt like a struggle, the rope cutting into their hands as they fought against the force pulling them down. Below, Prusco hung in the darkness, swinging slightly as they lifted him. His body was aching, the gear still dragging him backward. The blood rushing to his head made him dizzy, and he could feel the crushing weight pressing on his chest. "I'm slipping," he called out, his voice hoarse, but the rescuers didn't let go. They shouted back encouragement, their voices cutting through the tension. "Hold on, Rudy, we've got you." The cold, wet air of the cave made them all feel cold. Time seemed to move slowly. But, slowly, they managed to pull Prusco to a small, flat area halfway up the shaft. He was breathing heavily, but he felt relieved to be standing on solid ground again, even if it was just for a moment. They quickly tied another rope to his chest harness, pulling him upright and freeing him from the painful position of hanging upside down. "We're almost there," one of the rescuers shouted, and everyone pulled harder. They pulled him the rest of the way to safety. Their arms were sore and their bodies were shaking from tiredness, but they didn't stop until Prusco was finally pulled out of the cave and onto solid ground. He lay there for a moment, breathing heavily, his heart pounding, the fear of the experience still fresh in his mind. The rescuers fell to the ground, breathing heavily, but feeling relieved. They had done it. They had saved their friend, though still weak and shaken. Soon after, the NSS rescuers arrived, but the danger had already passed. Prusco was safe. The rescue of Rudy Prusco in Hellhole Cave teaches an important lesson about preparation and safety in cave exploration. One key point is the way Prusco used his ascender system. He chose a setup that required him to climb with his body in a horizontal position. This made it harder to support his upper body and added unnecessary strain. A different setup where the climber is upright might have been safer and easier. Another important lesson is about the gear he carried. Prusco brought a heavy pack, a camera, and a large lantern with him. Now, since the team already suspected the rope might be too short, it would have been better for him to travel light. The first person descending should always be prepared for problems like tangled or short ropes, and should avoid carrying extra weight as a result. Now, in some parts of Europe, cavers use a different technique. They attach their packs and gear to a separate tether below them, which keeps their hands and bodies free. This could have helped Prusco avoid getting pulled upside down. Finally, visibility is an important factor. Brightly colored ropes, like those dyed orange, are much easier to see in dark caves. Being able to see the rope clearly can help climbers spot potential problems before they happen. Using brightly colored ropes in cave exploration would make it safer for everyone. In the end, this incident reminds us that even experienced cavers must be careful. Choosing the right equipment, traveling light, and thinking ahead can make all the difference in a dangerous situation. A school nature trip turned into a battle for survival deep beneath the ground in Australia's Mystery Creek Cave. This is a story of survival, of heartbreak, and a warning for anyone who tries to battle against nature. Mystery Creek Cave. Mystery Creek Cave is located near the city of Hobart in Tasmania's Ida Bay. The cave was first recorded by a pair known as the Tyler brothers in 1880. Discovery of the cave led prospectors to find huge amounts of limestone nearby, and soon massive quarries were being constructed close to Mystery Creek. These mines threatened to turn Mystery Creek Cave and all its delicate and unique wildlife into a square void in the earth. The Tasmanian government stepped in to protect Mystery Creek Cave from the far-reaching laws of Australia's Mining Act. However, that didn't stop companies from digging nearby. In 1920, construction began on Blaney's Quarry, and even though Mystery Creek was a protected area, massive subterranean explosions shook the earth in a huge blast radius beyond the quarry itself. Some of Mystery Creek's delicate karstic tunnels collapsed from the blasts, and the cave entrance was temporarily caved in. Around this time, a large railroad was built to haul rubble and precious minerals away from the quarry. After the main entrance was excavated, the Tasmanian Caverneering Club embarked on the first true expedition to Mystery Creek Cave in 1954. Intrigued by what they found, the cavers started using the train to travel to Mystery Creek more often. People from Hobart and all around Tasmania started to get curious about the cave as well. So they also started taking excursions by train to the countryside, where they'd hike along a trail and marvel at the beauty of Mystery Creek Cave. The entrance of the cave attracted visitors with its generously sized interior that gets enough light in the daytime to give hikers a taste of what caving has to offer. Deeper inside, Mystery Creek Cave dips into a neck-high river that cavers have to wade through before the cave opens into hazardous passages with a 65-foot-deep chasm that lacks anchor points and ropes, so people have to shuffle along the walls and step over the cracks, praying not to slip. Piles of boulders present a climbing challenge that could give way to a landslide with one wrong move. Past a smooth sailing section that looks like it was made to be a reward for cavers, Mystery Creek shrinks into the Matchbox Squeeze, 50 feet of crawling through 5-foot-tall passages that are only just wide enough for the average person to squeeze through. The next path takes you under the Midnight Hole, a cylindrical shaft that opens up into another smaller cave entrance for cavers who like pitches and rappelling. Scientists have also had their eyes on Mystery Creek Cave for a while. They found that water flowing through the small Mystery Creek Cave connects to the much larger Exit Cave system, one of the largest cave systems in Australia that extends for 9.3 miles. Unfortunately for cavers, the connections aren't large enough for humans to traverse. Together, these two caves form a subterranean drainage network between the Mystery Creek River and the d'Entrecasteaux River. Most of Mystery Creek is composed of very old Ordovician limestone, which is stronger and less absorbent than other types of limestone, while the bulk of Exit Cave is comprised of carboniferous stone, which is permeable, which allows water to erode it to form caves. That's why Mystery Creek Cave is small, even though it's an inlet, and Exit Cave is enormous. Mystery Cave, Exit Cave, and other nearby caves represent the Ida Bay Cave Collection, which has some of the most diverse species and some of the rarest species in all of Australia. Mystery Creek is home to blind cave beetles, terrestrial troglobites, and the main attraction, glowworms, small insects that use bioluminescence to glow bright blue, which definitely makes the cave feel mysterious and otherworldly. These days, the old railroad tracks are gone, the quarry is closed, and nature trails were created that extend 1.4 miles to the cave. The Mystery Creek Trail continues to be a popular place for tourists and even school trips. But over the years, many novice cavers or foolhardy campers have gone too deep into Mystery Creek Cave. Some of these trips have turned to nightmares. Heroism, hubris, and hell inside Mystery Creek Cave. The mouth of the cave is a huge 164-foot chamber with a gently flowing stream and smooth rocks along the ground. The walls arc and bend upward with roughly a 50-foot ceiling in some places. This huge entrance can easily trick people into a false sense of security. The left wall heads off the straight path with a smooth karst formation before splitting with the right wall to form a narrow passageway that leads into the proper splunking portion of the cave. At this divide, a relatively new sign was drilled into the stone, the final warning to anyone who reads it. Unfortunately, at the time of this story, that sign wasn't there. Back in the summer of 1990, a group of 11 people were wrapping up their week-long camp with a trip to Mystery Creek Cave. The group was a class visiting the area from Taroona High School in Tasmania's capital city, Hobart. On July 2nd, the class trip left their camp and journeyed into Mystery Creek Cave. 8 students in their early teens were led by a caver who was a teacher at the school, accompanied by one other teacher, a female swimmer and water athlete, and another woman who worked as a student teacher. The teachers worked alongside local educators to give the kids a crash course in caving. They taught the basics of how their gear functioned, how to navigate, and emergency procedures. They were fully suited up with helmets and both wetsuits and overalls. Their lights weren't ideal though. Many of them used flashlights or other handheld light sources, while the team lead and a few others had headlamps. The weather that day was nasty, with record rainfall drenching nearby cities. But this was in the day before the internet was mainstream, and there were no smartphones to check real-time weather updates. The class had no idea that storms were pouring over nearby towns, since they only experienced light drizzles and mist along the trail. A caver, who was walking in the opposite direction, told them that the water was too deep and flowing too fast for him. The rain started to let up as they pressed onward, so the group agreed to decide what to do once they entered the cave. They reached the entrance to the cave in the early afternoon and found the water was lower than they expected. At the time, cavers were too relaxed about Mystery Creek. It wasn't the monster of Exit Creek, and it was peanuts compared to the submerged caves dotted all around Australia. Cavers in Tasmania just used a log by the inlet to check how high the water level was inside the cave. The log could be moved by the weather or by people, but that's not the real problem with this method. The real issue is that the water level at the mouth of the cave isn't a perfect measure of the water inside the cave. By the time you figure out the water level's too high, it's probably too late. The water levels returned to normal, and the group progressed further into the cave. They practiced caving maneuvers in sections where there was minimal risk. The students got through the matchbox squeeze without much trouble. They hugged the stone walls for a slab walk, and carefully descended the inclined laundry chute, which dropped in elevation down to the level of the entrance. This final portion was a challenge, so it took the group considerable effort and time to descend. In between helping the various newbie climbers, the veteran of the bunch started to steal concerned looks down at the stream below. 500 feet from the entrance, the group had one last challenge. They had to wade through a section of fast-flowing water roughly 2 feet deep. The party made a human chain and locked arms to cross. One of the classmates slipped. His two partners were unable to hold him up, and he went down hard on the rocks. They managed to get him up and across. He was hurt, but not injured. Then, a girl fell near the middle of the notch where the water was deepest, but this time, the rocks didn't hold her in place. The current whisked her 10 feet away and slammed her into a wall of rocks. She lost consciousness as she started drifting further down the notch. The water here gradually got deeper. Downstream, this underground river eventually ended in a vertical drop, a waterfall. One of the other kids bravely slid across the stones, rushed to her side, and tried to heave her out of the current. He wasn't strong enough, but he used all his might to keep her head above water. The female teacher, with a swimming background, easily traversed the slippery rocks and caught up with the two students, but they were being carried away by the stream down and out of sight. The team leader rushed to them. As he approached, the three were beginning to slide into a tube of rock that connected to a different portion of the cave. He dove for them as they vanished into the dark tunnel. On the way down, his boot got caught on the rocks. He yanked his foot out and started to run back upstream without it, but the water was gaining on him, and he couldn't get across to the other side where the students were. The student teacher helped coordinate the class, splitting them into two groups. She took 2 students with her, while the remaining 4 students stayed put. Outside the cave, emergency patrols were already out looking for them. The group was over 30 minutes late. Instead of immediately calling for a rescue team, it took first responders over an hour to figure out that the cars that had shuttled the class were still sitting at the start of the trail in the parking lot. Only then did they finally call the Tasmanian Caverneering Club Search and Rescue Unit. Nearly 3 hours later, 2 rescue cavers and 1 volunteer made it to the cave. The storm had returned in full force by this point, drenching the entire forest. They found some gear belonging to the class near the entrance of Mystery Creek Cave, stuff they didn't need inside the cave, things that they left behind when they entered. But none of the kids or the teachers were anywhere in sight. The impromptu rescue team rigged rope lines across the now raging river inside the early portion of Mystery Creek Cave. It was a challenge even for these experts. But after an hour of slow progress, they found the first classmate from the group of students that stayed behind on the exit side of the notch. By now, the sound of the rushing water reverberated around the dense stone, creating deafening noise that drowned out the voices of rescuers, making it hard to coordinate their plan. They realized that this water was hard to cross even with a rope. They tried not to think about the grim fate lying in wait for anyone who tried to cross it on their own. 2 hours later, the rest of the first group had been located. It was a miracle they found them when they did, because water levels were still rising. The second group, with the student teacher, was closer to the notch, so it took the rescue team longer to reach them. On their way out, the rescuers laid a ladder down across the stream, and the second group had to carefully climb across it since the water was too strong to traverse even with a rope. All 3 people in Group 2 made it out after 4 grueling hours. Both teams were safe. So the rescuers turned their attention to the team's caving guide, the second teacher, and the 2 students who were swept away by the notch. Rescuers attached a rope downstream from where the 4 had disappeared and tried to battle the river to find them. Further down, the rescuers saw light flickering in the cave. Unable to yell over the water, they slowly approached to find the caving teacher alive and using emergency candles to keep his exposed foot from falling off as he stole a sliver of warmth from the frigid air of the damp cave. He was unable to follow the other 3 any further due to the rushing waters, but he detailed their last known location, and the rescuers brought him out to safety. Rescuers searched as best as they could for 2 more hours, but they were unable to access portions of the cave as well. By 6 a.m., over 20 rescuers and emergency personnel had made it to Mystery Creek. As the students made it home after medical inspections, word spread like wildfire, and news crews descended on Mystery Creek, complicating the mission by distracting rescuers with questions and congesting the roadways. By noon, roughly 19 hours after the 3 went missing, The water in the cave had receded, allowing rescuers free access to the rest of the cave. Within just 3 hours, rescue teams found the teacher and the 2 students, but it was too late. The rescue crews and the class were all aided by psychologists to help them overcome the losses that they suffered that day, but it wasn't enough for the group leader. That teacher was awarded a Medal of Bravery, but he was never the same after that day. A media frenzy tore into him, calling him the worst things imaginable as he lingered in torment, feeling responsible for the deaths of the students. He died 2 months later. Non-cavers might call him reckless for ignoring the signs, but when they reached the cave, the water had gone down, and they had no way of knowing what the weather would bring. Pointing fingers won't bring back the 3 lives lost in that cave. Caving is about science, but it's also about keeping alive the memories of those who died, praising the heroes and rescuers. Caving is about exploring the depths, and it's about lifting people up. If these videos have taught you anything, it's that caves are volatile and unforgiving. Even the safest looking situation can instantly turn into a struggle for life and death. It's impossible to know what the weather or the earth will do. At the end of the day, each and every person who enters the dark labyrinth of a cave does so at their own peril. Should disaster strike, not even the best rescuer or caver in the world can conquer death. That day, when disaster struck, everyone in the class did their best. All the rescuers did their best. And that's all they can do. That's all anyone can ever do. Mystery Creek Cave is a bittersweet reminder about caving's amazing triumphs and its deadly consequences.